Welcome, with JB here at Learn Brizy Page Builder, and in this level 1 training course we take things a little bit slower and we just get familiar with the Brizy Page Builder. In future levels we will expand a lot on that. We will get to e-commerce and all those crazy stuff, but I do believe to have a rock solid foundation is the best way to go forward. And I also think, if you often look at many of the training courses that you find online, it looks like things can be done so easily, like you just jump in there and boom, boom, bam, everything works perfectly. But in the end, there are so many things that have to go into consideration. For example, the color scheme you use. Do you have font harmony? How do things blend together? There has to be so many decisions made. And that is sometimes misleading when you go online to YouTube or other training courses that you think, this is a very easy thing to do. Just like PowerPoint, a very good example is PowerPoint, and you often hear how people criticize PowerPoint for how tremendously badly it can be done. And trust me, there's nothing more frustrating than sitting in a presentation where someone has copied their entire thesis onto a PowerPoint slide and they read it to you. That doesn't mean PowerPoint is bad. It just means that person doesn't know how to do a presentation. And that is often the thing that we run into when it comes to website design, is that the software isn't bad. Well, all software has limitations, but the reality is that we need to learn many things to make the product look good. And I hope with a lot of these videos and the different levels that we will not only expose you to Brizy itself, but also to some of these other important concepts. My training philosophy is copy-do, and the two sounds very similar, and they are. What I mean by copy-do is don't try to create something from scratch at the beginning by yourself. Copy what someone else did. Make sure you understand exactly how someone else got to that point so that you can recreate it. And don't just watch. Watching a video means absolutely nothing. You have to apply it, and that's the do part. So copy and do. And then I have a few other philosophies like recycle. You have to do it again and again. And that's what we do with this. Here we are with yet another contact form, but you see a few more elements added. We're bringing in a background. Now we have overlay. We have a map. And also here at the bottom, we have some social icons. This course, though, is only about building up these sections. So adding links here, this will all be covered in level 2 and level 3. We're going to make this very good looking contact section in a block for a coffee shop in Brizy. Let's start. In your WordPress dashboard, we are going to open a new page for this exercise. Go to Pages, click on Add New, and then in the title, you are going to, let's call this Coffee Shop. And then you will publish it and publish it again. And this page we are going to be using for the next few exercises. To edit it with Brizy, we click up here and it will take us into the Brizy Page Builder. Start building, click in the middle and select Add a Blank Block. We will be working with 2 columns here, so I have no problem with these 2 columns that come in by default, and I'm going to leave them there. Because I have a color background, I will add that first, because often when you work with color, you need to know the color of the text. So it's good that you know if you have a darker background, how it will display for your text. So I go to the block sitting up here, click on the icon, all the way down to colors, and then you click on that. Here in the bottom, double click to highlight the code, and then we will use this orange called D25200, and we get this orange. I click outside to close the toolbar. In the left-hand column, I will bring in our contact form. Click on Add Elements in the side panel. Over here, you will see the widget form. Drag and drop it, and we can begin styling our form. Let's go through this again. We have 3 fields here, and this is where the visitor to your site will enter their information. We're going to keep it the same. We want to have visitors add their name in this top one. We want them to add their email in the second one, and then leave a message in the third one and send here with the last button. To style these fields, you have to click in the field. So we click in the first field. We click on the field icon here, and it jumps here to the bottom so I cannot see what's going on here. To overcome this obstacle, we're going just to add a blank block while we are working with this block. So I click here, add a blank block, and I go to the side panel where it says reorder blocks, click on that, and then drag this one up to the top. The reason we did that is that if I go now to email, click in here, and I click on the field, this toolbar goes to the top and it does not overlap what I'm doing down here. Gives me a much better view. Because I'm going to use an email field and I want to have a text field for people to enter their names, I'm going to copy this one. So I'll click here on duplicate. This one here that is select, I click on it and I choose delete. Let's go set up the fields now. The first one is going to be a text field where the person can enter their name. Click on it, click on the field, choose up here text, and you're done. In here, double click on email and type in name. Let's go to the email field, click on it, email field, and let's make sure it is set at email. Then on the paragraph, which is a paragraph field, click on that, click on the field and make sure it's set on paragraph to allow people to type a long message. Then we double click on paragraph and we type in message. When you're done with this, I recommend you do the styling next. Styling begins with typography, which will affect all three fields. Currently, I'm in this third field, so if I click on T, it will overlap these ones at the top. So to have a better view, I'm going to click in the top one, and now I click on the T. I can see my form much better. I will choose Playfair Display here as the font that I will be using for my form. I click on Playfair Display. I'll increase the size to around 18, and I'll put the weight on bold. I will decrease the line height a little bit to around 1.3, and I will increase the letter spacing around there to 1. Next, I'll do the colors. Click on the colors, and the first part we will tackle is the background. Currently, the background is white. I'm going to make it see-through again, so I want it all transparent. I grab the slider on the right and drag it down all the way to the bottom. Then I click on label. The label is the word that appears inside the field. This I will make white. I can click on this little white swatch here all the way to the right. I'm going to increase it here because the opacity is set by default to around 70%. Let's make that 100%. And then for the border, I'm not going to change anything. I think the color for the border works well. All my formatting and styling for the form is completed. Let's close this part then by clicking on the button, and I double click on the text in the button and I type in send. And I want to do that in all caps, so you have to activate all caps on your keyboard and then type in send. We style it from left to right, so we click here on the button, and the only thing I will basically do here is I'll go to the icon and I will remove the icon like so. The rest of what I've got here, I will leave. Next, text. Choose Playfair Display. I'll increase it to 14. And I'll also put it on bold. Then I will also reduce the line height to around 1.5. For the color, click on that. The background as it is now, I'm going to make it white. That means for the text, click here. I'll give the text that orange color that we typed in, which is D25200. If I hover over the button, you will see it has this blue color, which I don't want it to have. So I activate the hover state here. I will again enter for the background that orange color. So I highlight D25200. And now if I hover over it, you can see it will appear like this. I think the button is a little too big. So what I'll do is I'll go back here to button. I'll go to the size of the button and I'll put it on small. Then I'll go back to typography and I'll increase the size of the text to 13, or let's put that on 14. It's a little bit better to read. And now I've styled my form. I have a nice looking button, and we can bring in the map element over here. To bring in the element, we go up here to add elements, click on that, and if you go here, you will see the map element. You drag and drop it. Now, there's not much to be done with the map element. You can change the size of the map element and you can enter a location. For the location to work, though, you have to be sure that you probably have a place on Google Businesses or that you are registered and can be found on the Google map to make it easier for this map to work. But this is a very nice inclusion and very easy to use if you have a place to use. So just to give you an idea, if I click on the map, over here you will set your location, and on the map up here you will type the place or the address. I'm going to type in a place called, let me just take Living Life in Lady Brand, and it will give me the location of Living Life in Lady Brand, which is a place that is closed now, one of my favorite coffee shops and breakfast houses. What a pity. I can reduce the size of this map to align it with this button. You see this button, the line goes here. I want the map to align with that. So I click on the map and I grab the handle here at the bottom and drag it up until I think they are nicely aligned. And that was very easy, right? Map is done. Let's bring in a title with some paragraph text under that. I'll bring in 2. Click on Add Elements. Grab the first text element and drag it to the top until you see the thick gray line span across both columns. If you do it like this, only one column, you will only get it in the one column. We don't want it over there. Control Z to undo that. Make sure you drag it until you see that thick gray line across both columns and drop it. Click in it and let's make it white so we can see what we are working with. Now I'm going to highlight all and type in Get in Touch. I will center align it by clicking on the alignment once, and then we go to typography. For this, I'm going to use a nice cursive called here, Great Vibes. And Great Vibes, you have to increase the size quite a bit to get it to look good. So I'm just going to type in a number like 170, which is a little too big. And then I'll type in 150. And I think that gets us closer to where we want to be with this. If I look at it, yes, it's quite big, but I like it the way it is displaying at this very moment. Let's add another text element underneath here as a sub-paragraph to our heading where we can leave some information for people about our shop if they want to contact us and do business with us. Again, go to Add Elements, click here, click on your text element and drag it below until you see the thick gray line that spans the entire box and drop it. I'll click in and first put it on white so that I can see it. Now I will highlight it and I will just paste some random lorem ipsum text in there. You can paste your own text in there. Just like this one up here, I'm going to center align it by clicking on the alignment button once. Let's style the typography. Click on Typography. And this one we choose Playfair Display. I'll leave it on 16 so as that it's not too much in the face. Now I want to box it in a little bit so it's not this wide and a little bit narrow. To do that, I have to apply space inside this container. And every time that we put space inside, we talk about padding. So I want to add space here on the left to push all of this text to the right. And I want to add space here on the right to push all of this space to the left. Click on Settings and then More Settings. And that is done under Padding. Currently, the padding is all linked. So if I grab the slider and I drag it, it will apply space at the top, bottom, and left and right. And I only want it on the left and the right. So let's put it back at 0 and delink it by clicking on this icon. We focus only on the left, so this side, and we apply 100 because that's the highest we can go with the slider. But with this 100, I think it's not enough. So what I'll do is I'll double click in there and type 150. And that brings me closer to where I want to be. Then I go to the right side and I apply padding there, double click in there and type in 150. And now it looks better for what I had in mind. If I click out and take a bird's eye view, the space between this element here, this text element, and this text element is too big. One of the reasons this text element has so much space is because of the typography line height. Let me show you. If you click here and you go to your typography, it is set at a default value usually of around 1.7. What we'll do is we'll reduce it to 1. And usually at 1, that is where the closest it will go. And the moment I put it at 1 and you look at it now, that is more acceptable space. Of course, now this one is too close to your form and your map. So for that, we will add space, and we'll do that by our good friend, the spacer. Go to Add Elements and look for the spacer, drag and drop until you see the thick gray line across both columns and drop it. And I think the space for that is already enough. At the bottom now, we'll build up some social icons that if people click on it, it will take them to YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. So up here, go to Add Elements, and we use the icon element for this. Click and drag until you get to the bottom and you see the thick gray line again across both columns, and you drop it. It will appear here. Click on the icon, not next to it. If you click anywhere next to it, you won't find anything happening. You have to physically click on the icon. And now the toolbar will pop up. Let's change the color first. Over here on the colors, be aware that there are two color states. This is your default, and then there's a hover state, which is slightly less. If I click here on the hover, you can see the opacity has been set lower, and the default state is at 100%. So remember, you have to change both. I will first put this one in default at white, and then for the hover, I'll also put it at white. So now it will fade a little bit when I hover over it. That's all of the color styling I'm going to do to this icon. Let's go and click on the icon. Here we will change the icon. Click on this icon, and it will open this dialog box that will give you the option to choose all these icons. There are 1,000 or so. So, searching for your YouTube icon here is almost impossible. Luckily, you can search for it with a keyword. So you type up there in the search keyword section and you type YouTube and you will find the YouTube icon. Just click on it. To bring in the other two icons, we're purely going to duplicate this icon. So while it is open, go over here to the duplicate function, click on it, and click on it again. They are a little too close to each other, and this is a nice feature within Brizy that we actually have these different elements in one element at this moment. To give it more space, you go back here to this icon, click on it, and then you will see spacing here at the bottom. You increase that to around 20 pixels. That gives us a little bit more space to play with. We change the other two icons by clicking on this one, go to the icon, click next to here, and then search for Facebook. You can choose whichever Facebook one or Facebook Messenger. I'll just choose this standard one. Let's choose this one next. Click on it, go to the icon, click here again, and we search for Twitter. Looking at the three, I think this one is a little too small. We can increase the size of the icon. So let's click on the YouTube icon, go to icon, and then here on size, let's see what happens at 64. That is already much better. You can have more control over it by clicking here on the three dots, and you will be able to set it any value you please within the range. But I think the 64 is good for what we want here. Now that we've made it bigger, the space again looks too squashed. So I will increase the spacing more. There, what is that? 35, 36. I think that looks much better. In level 2, when we work with these social icons, we will add the links for them over here. So each of these have an area that you can add a link, and then when people click on it, it will take them to the respective pages. Let's save our work, Control-Command-S, and view it on the front end to see what have we done so far. A very orangey looking contact form for our coffee shop, and it looks good, but I think we need to do a few more things here and then we are done with it. I feel we need a little bit more space here at the top, and also we need more space here between these elements here and the social elements at the bottom. And then I'm going to bring an image in the background with this orange for an overlay. Let's close this tab. Let's fix those other things. Hover here at the top until you see this blue section appears, and you just drag it to around 100 pixels to give it more space. Let's put in an image in the background. That's in the block. Click here on the block settings. Go to background, image, and choose the image. Select. Once the image comes in, Brizy will by default reduce the opacity of the color to around 90%, and you can decide if you want to leave it there or reduce it a little bit more, which I will do to around 83%. Now we have a very nice overlay color to our image, making it very clear this is a coffee shop. Then at the bottom, let's bring some space in between these social icons and these two columns. We go to Add Elements, grab our spacer, drag it until we see the thick gray line, and drop it. Let's see if that is too much space. Maybe. So we click on it, grab the handle here, and reduce it a little bit. And if you want to know how many pixels for this area, you click here on the settings and you can see it's at 33 pixels. The last part, and very important when you work with two columns like this, and that is to go have a look at your responsiveness. We look at the tablet mode first. Tablet, and I think up here everything looks good, this looks good, and you have a decision to make. What do you think? Is this wide enough space, or does it look a little bit too crowded? Would you like it to be a little bit different arranged on your tablet? And here is one of the most incredible features I've seen in responsiveness when it comes to page builders, and I'm going to show you. You see, this is currently two columns. But what happened, the moment we go into tablet, you will see that usually there's only a handle here in the middle. But now there's also a handle here on the right for this column. Let's go back to desktop view so you can see what I'm talking about. If I hover over these two columns and you see the blue bounding box, you will see the handle, this thick blue part, only appears here in the middle between these two, but not here on the right. But when I go to tablet view, guess what? There it is on the right. So let me show you what I'm going to do. On this column, grab the handle, drag it, and at the top you will see the percentage. And I'm going to drag it until I get to 100%. It has pushed the map now underneath it. And now I can decide if I want to increase the map also to 100% like so. And maybe on tablet, this just looks better. And this is your choice to make, whether you think that was enough space or not. I think this is a very great feature, gives a little bit more space on the tablet, so I'm going to apply it like this. Then on the phone, let's go and choose mobile, and it will apply it like this by default on the mobile. This text may be a little bit too big. On the other hand, I think I like it. The only thing here is we need a little bit more space there at the top. To apply that space, I go to the block, click on settings, go here to padding and de-link them, and I increase the space at the top to around 79, 80 pixels. Let's have a look again at tablet and at our desktop. Remember, we had brought in this block up here at the beginning, which we're not going to use. And there are two ways you can delete it. The first way is you can go here to the block icon, activate the settings, and delete it from here. The second way you can delete it is to go over here, all the way to the left where you see reorder blocks. And if you click on it, you can see the two blocks that we currently have here. You can just click here on the X next to the block and it will delete it. Let's go save our work at the bottom right-hand corner by updating it. And then let's view our final contact form product. In all its glory, it's quite a big form, but I really like it, and it's going to look very good on our coffee shop page.